Hello, everyone, and welcome back to 101 Great Goals here on YouTube for another Talking Points, where we review the talking points from the previous week's footballing action. I'm delighted to say that Tom Canton from Gooner Talk TV is on with us today, and he's a writer at 101 as well, so makes it even better for us. Tom, thank you very much for coming on. Arsenal got a win yesterday. Always nice to do things like this after a win.
Yeah, it's been pretty rare. You're lucky you caught me when you did, because we haven't been doing that too often, But yeah, no, it's good to be on, mate.
3-0 as well. You talk about rarities.
Yeah, it's strange seeing Arsenal score that many goals and some good ones as well. I mean, the first one, Lacazette's, was kind of classic Arsenal, a little bit of interchange of play with him and Partey and Ceballos, little back heel as well for it. It was a great finish, and Martinelli stepping up with the goal as well. So, yeah, it's strange seeing Arsenal win, but a welcome return, and fingers crossed we can carry that into Thursday, most importantly.
Big game. So coming up on today's episode, we're going to be talking through Arsenal. Why are they in the position that they are in? Because obviously we've been asking you, the fans, as well. We're going to be talking about Saka. We're going to be talking through Lionel Messi and his supposed dwindling impacts on big games. We've got a shocking El Clasico stat there as well. And then we'll finish on yesterday's game between Manchester United and Tottenham. Obviously the big decision surrounding McTominay's assault on Son as the referee viewed it, and you've been giving us some brilliant views on that as well. So, Tom, we'll go through Arsenal then. I mean, we're in April, and Arsenal nowhere to be seen in and around the European places. It's unheard of for, well, I'd say people older than myself who have grown up with Arsenal being dominant, and in particular me as well. But I think people from outside of the fan base, it's a big struggle to try and understand actually why Arsenal's in the position it's in. You know, a brand new, well, not brand new anymore, but a big stadium, big club. Where's the penny dropped, and where's it gone wrong recently?
The thing is about Arsenal right now is that obviously it's a very difficult kind of situation to look at, and there's a lot of anger, I think, amongst the Arsenal fans about where we are. As you talked about Arsenal, we expect them to be a top 4, minimum top 6 kind of team, and fighting for those European places and fighting to be in top 4. We were in top 4 for so long under Arsene Wenger, 16 years in a row, I think it was, something ridiculous like that. Which I suppose some people could turn around and say we've taken a little bit for granted at times. Now, being in the position that we are out of that competition is a real big shame. But I think there are a lot of reasons behind it. I think that Arsenal have gone backwards categorically through recruitment mistakes. I mean, we spent 561 million between 2015 and 2019 on player transfers and have just gone backwards because of the types of players that we've picked up. And I think that's led to a squad that is now needing a huge rebuild under Arteta and Edu and everyone else involved with the club. And I've seen change over the last year. Bringing in Gabriel and Partey was a bit of kind of a cornerstone, a turning point for the team, I felt. But that's going to take time. It's not going to be done in one season. It's going to take longer than that. But I understand that a lot of people are already kind of willing to cut ties with Arteta and think we should move on to a more experienced coach.
Just in terms of the future then, because you mentioned that some fans are saying that Arteta isn't the man. Some fans saying that he is, and it seems like a very split fan base at the moment in terms of where the club should go, and a very split board as well. But where do you stand on Mikel Arteta and the changes that he's implemented and some of the changes that he's brought?
I think that it's not been perfect. He's an inexperienced coach. He's come in for his first managerial job at a huge club, a club that I consider Arsenal to be the most difficult job in the Premier League, to be honest, because you've got a club that's expected to be a top 4 team, but has categorically spent poorly and has got a pretty kind of, you're looking at the squads in the Premier League, and I look at it and I'm thinking it's not even this first team 11. The squad is not in the top 6 for me in comparison to its rivals. And you've got a coach that's expected to reach that by the fan base, and you've got an owner that's not investing and not putting money into the team to spend now as much as the rivals can spend. So it's really difficult to get that. But he has made mistakes. His selections have been wrong at times. He's been too loyal to players like Willian at times, like Hector Bellerin previously at the start of the season, which he has now learned from and isn't using him. And Willian's not playing anywhere near as much either. I think he's been let down as well by a lot of his senior players like Aubameyang and Lacazette missing some huge chances during games. I think we've had injuries as well to Partey for a lot of the season that have cost us. I feel, though, to round it off in a sense that I feel like a year is not and when I say a year, I mean one summer transfer window, is not enough time for me to really know if this is going to work. I feel like next summer, if we continue on the route of bringing in players like we've seen under Arteta that improve the squads in Gabriel and Partey, like the players that we're spending the money on, then I feel that you've got a situation where you can then fully judge. And if we're still 8th, 9th, 10th, say Christmas of next season, and we've not progressed, then I think you start asking the questions about, do we need to change manager at this point, because this process, as it's called, isn't necessarily working.
Yeah, I always have a soft spot for Arteta anyway, being a Man City fan. Obviously, he's a very, very good coach under Pep, and I just want to see him do well as well. If there are any Arsenal fans or football fans in general, what do you think of the situation at Arsenal, and how much time do you think Mikel Arteta has, and do you think he's the right man for the job? Sticking with Arsenal now, Bukayo Saka seems to have been a really bright, shining light in an Arsenal season that hasn't shone at all. We're talking about the Euros in the summer. Gareth Southgate said that he wants players who are very good at their position, and he's not going to pick players based on versatility, which we know Saka is. He can play left back. I think he's played the most positions out of anyone in that Arsenal squad, and he's done extremely well, and he looks like a very, very talented prospect. Where are you at with Saka? And would it even be that much of a downer if he didn't go to the Euros, because then you'd have a fighting fit player at the start of next season?
I mean, I'm, as well as an Arsenal fan, I'm an England fan, so I want to see Saka go to the Euros. And in fact, it's been quite painful over the last decade not seeing too many Arsenal players in the England team. I mean, it's pretty much been Theo Walcott and Oxlade-Chamberlain when he was with us, but prior to that, it was you're going back to the mid noughties to really get more Arsenal players in the team, and even then, it was still not too many. So it's nice seeing more Arsenal players, and of course, Ainsley Maitland-Niles also made it too for a brief period. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Saka get called up and play. So that doesn't concern me too much. But on kind of how he's been for Arsenal, as you say, he's exceptionally versatile. He kind of got into the team as a left back when Tierney was injured at first and we didn't really have anyone to play there, and he came in and did really well there, and then gradually has moved further forward where he's more natural, and as you can see, he's doing really well in kind of a front three in either of the left or right, or even as he did yesterday with no Erdegaard and no Smith Rowe playing in the number 10 role. So he can play in these different positions and roles. His finishing needs improvement. His final product is definitely in need of kind of that additional bit of finesse that's needed to, as you develop, and he's still only 19, of course, so there's all of that to worry about. But he's an exciting talent, and certainly one that Arsenal should look to, as they have done last summer, extend as much as possible and keep in the team and keep developing as much as possible.
Yeah, he's been fantastic this season. I think he's really matured this season as well. He's come into his own. He was given the number 7 shirt, which was a big step for him. It's a big step for a young player as well, isn't it, to be given a proper number rather than 47 like Phil Foden. But it just seems like he's really come of age this season. And from the outside looking in, I'd probably say he's one of the top 5 talents in the Premier League, because he's exciting, but he's, like I say, he seems mature on the ball, and he seems mature how to carry the weight on his shoulders that a big club like Arsenal brings. Let's be honest. If you're a young player, especially if you're a young player coming in this Arsenal team, it's so much harder than coming in as a young player with Thierry Henry, Robert Pires around you, because you know that if you don't perform, you're still going to win the game anyway. So yeah. I do admire Saka on that front. And do you think he can become one of the top players in the Premier League in the future? I know it's a very difficult question to answer because we never know what will happen, but certainly for me, he's displaying that talent.
Yeah, I think it's consistency that basically separates these young kids as talents that we can see going forward to be an excellent player against players that maybe burst onto the scene briefly. I think do you remember Makeda at Man United? Like players like that just burst onto the scene briefly and then can't keep up the consistency, and so lose their places and eventually just move on. I think Saka's got this consistency. He showed it last season. He's showing it into this season. He's been actually kind of the shining light of the whole season that's been pretty deplorable, to be honest. And he's been that hope that we've got to push us forward. So, yeah, I think there's all the hope in the world that he can. It's his final ball, final product that needs to be the bit that he improves on. Everything else, the commitment, the drive, the movement, the vision is all there. It's just his final shot, his final ball that actually, if you get that right, you've got a player that could explode next season.
Yeah, 100%. And do you know what? From an opponent point of view, I am genuinely excited to see Saka play, and I'm genuinely excited to see how he does. Just not against Man City. Everything else is fine. Like if he destroys Man United and Liverpool, perfect. But as soon as he plays us, I don't want him to play well. And we'll move on then because Lionel Messi was at the forefront of the footballing world again in Barcelona's El Clasico defeat against Real Madrid. 2-1, Real Madrid won that game. And it actually led to a start because Messi didn't score, and he hasn't scored now in 7 El Clasicos, which is unheard of. Just genuinely how good of a player he is. And I never thought that in my time of speaking on football and doing these types of shows, I'd ever have to discuss, is Lionel Messi just past his best, but is his influence on big games dwindling? And it does seem that maybe that is the case. Bruce Waters had something to say about it. He said Messi can no longer do it alone. He needs to be surrounded by other strong players like most of the top teams. For me, Messi, the best player to ever play the game. Some of the stuff that he produces has been magical over the years. And he's still having a productive season, but those goals have come against lower level teams in that league. He's hit some good goals as well, but to not scoring 7 El Clasicos, that must hurt him, and he will be feeling that, won't he, Tom? Where do you stand on Lionel Messi and his maybe dwindling impact on big games?
Yeah, I'm as surprised as you that I suppose we're talking about kind of Lionel Messi and that. It's a little bit sad in a way because you think it also makes me feel exceptionally old to be thinking about Lionel Messi kind of dwindling away. I remember coming onto the scene when I was still a kid. So I think that I don't necessarily want to say that it's exaggerated or overblown because he has scored in big games this season. He scored in both of the legs against PSG in the Champions League. They went out, but he scored in both of those games. He scored in the 2-0 win over Juventus in the group stage as well. He scored against Sevilla towards the end of this season as well. He scored in other big games across the season too against Bilbao and Sociedad and Valencia. And I think he's got 23 and 28 in La Liga, which is still an exceptional return for a player that doesn't play as an out-and-out striker. So I think that whilst I get the focus, especially for Barca, is always going to be on the El Clasico, if anything, and I agree with the quote that you brought up there, is that he does still need good players around him. And no matter if you're Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo, you are going to need still really good players. I mean, you look at Ronaldo at Juventus, you look at where Juventus are in Serie A this season, now they're dropping off. And you're seeing Inter and Milan really kind of push up the league this season as well. And I think that you still just need that quality. And I think, if anything, kind of Messi's decline has gone as a correlation with Barcelona's decline as a club through exorbitant spending on players that haven't then fulfilled their potential, like Coutinho, like Griezmann, like Ousmane Dembele to a lesser extent. So I think that he can't be solely blamed necessarily for a lack of competitiveness because he's still scoring and he is still scoring in other big games. It's just maybe El Clasico that's got that exuberant focus that you don't get in necessarily the other games, of course.
Do you think they're a victim of their own success in a way? I just go back to the comment there that Lionel Messi needs good players around him to perform. He scored 23 goals, like you say, in the league this season in a poor Barcelona team. Doesn't every player in the world need good players around them to perform to the best of their abilities? If you put Kevin De Bruyne in the Forest Green Rovers side and stick him in the Champions League, he's not going to do. Sorry, I should have said the Arsenal team. He's not going to do the same job, is he? And do you feel like there's an unprecedented weight on Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi to perform and to do ungodly things on a football pitch, because we know that that's what they're capable of, when in reality, if any other player at his age has a 23-goal season in the league from 28 games, it's magical.
Yeah, I think it does separate them. And you look, I mean, Ibrahimovic at 39 is scoring a ridiculous amount of goals in the games he's playing for Milan this season too. His goal records is saying it does separate these guys from the rest of other just good players to world class and the top talents of all time. And it's just, I think it is a bit silly. I mean, if Messi was playing in my old Sunday League team, I reckon he'd struggle because we were dreadful. So I think that when you look at kind of that side of things, is that Messi as well is someone like Ronaldo is a bit different to a Messi, of course, because you think of Ronaldo as kind of the guy that dragged Real Madrid to Champions Leagues. I'm not saying that Messi can't drag a team, but Messi's style, he loves to use the interplay, loves to bring other players into the game, and the quick tiki-taka style that we saw him under Pep Guardiola use, and then to a lesser extent Luis Enrique as well, and just having those better players around him when he had Suarez and Neymar next to him too. You saw him be better because of those players too, and his style, I think, leans more on needing that quality because he wants to use others, because he wants to bring them into play. He needs them to anticipate his own movement of where he's going to go, which is tricky because he's so separate from everyone else to try and preempt what he's going to do. He does need those players around him, and playing in a Barcelona team that is historically, in comparison, whilst on a global scale it still looks a very good team, but in Barcelona standards is poor in comparison to the history.
It must be hard, mustn't it, to be used to playing with Xavi and Iniesta to then having to not play with the likes of Xavi and Iniesta, and now you're playing with Martin Braithwaite. Not that Martin Braithwaite's not a good player. Like, you mentioned your Sunday League team. Martin Braithwaite probably would get in your Sunday League team.
I don't know. I was a decent striker.
Exactly. So let us know in the comments what you think of what we just said about Lionel Messi. What you think of him as a player and where you think his future lies. Obviously, a lot of comments about him dwindling on big games, and are we just seeing the natural decline of one of the best players to ever play the game? So finally, we'll end on Manchester United against Tottenham. It's always nice for you when Tottenham lose, and we can talk about that. There was a big VAR call when Cavani thought he opened up the scoring for Manchester United, and it was brought back for a foul on Heung-min Son. Scott McTominay brushed him on the face, and he's out of action for, I think it's 4 weeks now. John says, this is what is turning people away from the game. If you breathe on a player, they go on the ground as if they were hit by a bus, which is very much the case and has been the case in football for a while, I would say. But the new little piece of the puzzle that's come in is VAR, and not just VAR, the people who are looking at those decisions. So Chris Cavani goes to the VAR monitor and judges it to be a foul. For me, a shocking decision, Tom. I don't know how you feel about it, but I couldn't believe it. Mind blown.
Obviously, this comes with the caveat that I'm an Arsenal fan talking about a Spurs player, which is always going to exist. So you can take it with a pinch of salt, I guess. But yeah, I'm in agreement with you, George. I can't understand why that was deemed enough. There are instances that we've seen this season that haven't been punished for that. I mean, Sadio Mane, I remember against Arsenal, full-on elbowed Kieran Tierney in the face and nothing was given at all, and arguably could have been a red card. And there's been other examples of players that have done that, and then red cards have been given later on in the season. So it's for me, VAR is always going to be an issue until we see consistency. And that's tricky to do because of the amount of inconsistencies we've seen. As soon as we start trying to get onto kind of a trajectory of consistent patterns of decisions, that will get compared to previous seasons. So that's why it's so difficult to find consistency, because you've already kind of set your stall out on what decisions have been made. It will only be done in the long term, and people's opinions of it will change in the long term if they do kind of set laws about certain things. We've seen it with the handball situation. But yeah, it was ridiculous. I think I'm not the biggest fan of Son, you'll be surprised to learn. But it's just, I just can't stand how he kind of plays up to things. He's the perfect Mourinho player in my mind. Like Mourinho, I don't know if you saw the words that Mourinho used to describe how Spurs had to be during the Amazon documentary. That was very much of that nature, let's describe it as, in the best possible way. And I think that players have learned to do this because they know they're going to get these decisions. They're going to get them. It's like when you get tapped in the box, referees aren't going to give you a penalty if you don't go down. And that's why these players do. And to be fair to sometimes I'm like, you know what, I can understand why you're going down, because you need to win the penalty. I think it was João Cancelo against Leeds. He was clipped in the box right at the end of the game, and yet stayed on his feet to put the cross into the box. And I felt that if he'd have actually gone down from the clip, that would have been a clear penalty, and VAR would have given it to him. And it's just those moments of, that's why honesty is no longer being rewarded, because you're not getting those decisions. And that's why players are being encouraged to make a meal of things and do what Son did, because ultimately it won them that goal being cancelled out. So I can understand why he did it, but at the same time, with my footballing head on, or you want to call it an old-fashioned head on, you go, you're a little bit silly for doing that, really.
Yeah, I mean, as an Arsenal fan, you don't like Son. Next, you'll be telling me you don't like Harry Kane, and I don't understand why. But
surprising, isn't it? It's crazy.
The bias doesn't come out. But honestly, I fully understand what you're saying. When players aren't being rewarded for honesty and also genuine fouls just because they haven't gone down. But I don't think I'd be able to look at myself in the mirror if I did what Son did. And what do you know? What countless other footballers at Manchester City players do it as well. A little tap in the face is not enough to make them go down, and
Yeah.
I just can't get my head around it. But then, obviously, when you get paid £200,000 a week, then maybe looking in the mirror it'd be a little bit better anyway.
Yeah.
But where does it leave you then with decisions like that? Just purely, we're not going to talk about what VAR can do better. It's not our decision. But from a fan's point of view, to watch the game as it is right now, I know I said it a couple of weeks ago. I'm scared to celebrate. Don't really want to celebrate when a goal goes in because you think it's going to be offside.
Yeah.
Where does it leave you from a spectator's point of view?
I feel like it's a necessary evil at times because, I mean, I remember watching football before VAR, which seems an incredible long time ago to say. It's
Back
a really
in
weird
my day.
sentence. Yeah, I remember watching football without video assistant referees. And I remember, I mean, the one that sticks in my mind always will be Arsenal's Champions League clash against Barcelona when Van Persie was sent off for kicking the ball away.
Oh.
And I remember that like it was yesterday, and that's incidents like that and things like that, and I suppose the misidentity as well, like we saw against Chelsea when I think Gibbs it was that was sent off instead of Oxlade-Chamberlain. Things like that, you feel like this is why VAR is needed and stuff. But things like we saw yesterday with the Son thing, that for me is not the biggest issue. The biggest issue for me is the offsides that we see and the tiny incremental differences, and the fact that sometimes they can't human error comes into it still, because you can't physically, with the mouse that they use on the system, can't put the lines directly to the millimeter in the right place, and so you're going to get mistakes still. And that's why I felt that until we get the technology where it can be done automatically, and I hate to bring kind of video games into it in a way, because if you think about like FIFA, and I don't play FIFA anymore, but when we used to play it, it's like you could judge the offsides because the computer knew that the player is in front of whoever when the ball is played. And I feel like until that technology for real life football is available, where a computer can track the players on the screen and know where they're going to and when the ball is played. Because I remember the Jota one for Liverpool, you couldn't even tell when the ball had left Trent Alexander-Arnold's foot at that point. It was really difficult. So I feel like until the technology is to a suitable standard, it should be reined back, and it should be used only when appropriate and only when it's possible to use it efficiently and accurately.
What a perfect point to sum it up. So let us know in the comments what you think of VAR and everything that we have spoken about today, because that is all we have got time for on this week's Talking Point. So I just want to say thank you to Tom for coming on. All his links will be in the description below for Gooner Talk. If you are an Arsenal fan, or you're not an Arsenal fan, you want to go and have a laugh sometimes when they're losing. That's
sure.
That's the way to go. Tom,
which is a lot.
Yeah, any publicity is good publicity. That's what they say. But no, really appreciate you coming on. Thank you to everyone who has watched this week. Subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. Let us know in the comments, like I say. Like the video as well, and check out our social media pages. Again, all links will be in the description. So until next week and more footballing controversies, we'll see you next time.